Hey everybody, it's Justin from the Camera Shop in Muskegon, and we tried to do this earlier, as I was saying. There's a lot of people coming in and out of the store, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of all of our guests here who are coming into the store to come see us. So I appreciate you guys waiting. Welcome to the recap from our WZZM broadcast for the Facebook Photo Challenge for the week, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I am going to get on and show you guys some images, but first I'm going to go over the description, the tips and tricks for what we're going to be talking about here. So let me just quickly pull that up and we'll share that. Sandy Bruce is saying hello Sandy. So good to see you. Brad Walker is saying hi. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. What we got going on here, I'm just going to find what I need to find. Now, I want to first say this for those of you who are tuning in, please share with your friends and challenge your peers to the Facebook Photo Challenge, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I am also going to say, hey, that can include boats as well. We don't want to discriminate against the boats out on Lake Michigan because, hey, they are also a vehicle of transportation. So, consider those as well. Todd is saying hello. Hi there, Todd. How you doing? Brad is saying he forgot to send the photo. Brad, don't worry. This is a whole brand new photo challenge. This is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We're working past the essence of architecture. We're working on the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So I am going to quickly find the screen that I need to share with you guys. We got that. And it's going to be Planes, Trains, and Automobile right up. You guys should probably be able to see my email right now, and you do. So I'll just read from my email. These are my tips and tricks for planes, trains, and automobiles. We'll start off with the standard and usual is inspiration. So the first thing I'll do is actually I just want to share. I think I can keep it on this screen here. Just Google. Yep, I'm still sharing this screen. You guys should still see my screen, yes. Bill is saying hi from Bay City. Bill, Bay City, is that all the way over in the thumb somewhere over here? Let me know if I'm right. But hello, I'm glad you're tuning in. Appreciate it. I hope you guys who are tuning in find this enjoyable. And forgive me if I'm a little frazzled. I mean, we were supposed to go on at 4. There's people coming in the store still. It's 4:30. So I'm trying to get this going and get you guys taken care of. So here we go. Planes, trains, and automobiles. I'm going to type in trains. So I always start out with, hey, the best thing to do is research the subject matter that you wish to photograph. That's where you'll get your best inspiration on what to shoot, how to shoot, just to start to approach what you're getting ready to photograph. So with trains, I simply just Google search trains. We've got all kinds of shots coming up. I like to click on images and see what we've got. You can kind of see that some people have already started playing around with, we've got some motion blur here in the background. We've just got some solid trains, like we've frozen them in time. We got some well-lit trains. We've got some trains that have wrecked on the tracks. So these are just kind of the generic ones. We got Thomas the train engine. It's fantastic. But if you type in train photography, maybe that's a little bit better than just Google searching trains. This is great. We've got night, we've got long exposure, we've got backgrounds. This gives you a little bit more of what to look for the inspiration. So one of them here right away is this guy. This has got the nice little steam engine with the plumes of smoke. Now I've seen a lot of people who have done the Christmas train. I can't remember what the name is, guys. If you guys are tuning in and you have been over, I think it's like towards Ionia County, and you've seen the holiday train, this reminds me of a lot of the shots that people are getting in the central part of the state, is this right here. Kind of just that classic look with the steam engine blowing smoke, just kind of coming at an angle. Now, the biggest thing about shooting trains, guys, and this is going to be one of the tips, is safety above all things. The biggest thing about shooting planes, trains, and automobiles, these are all vehicles that are bigger than you. They will squish you. They will run you over. They will hit you. So with trains, never, ever, ever shoot on the tracks. It doesn't matter if it's an active track or a dead track. Don't put kids on railroad tracks like this photo is declaring here. You've got this one right here, train cemetery, and this person is very close to the tracks. They suggest that you stay 6 feet away from tracks because there is an overhang of trains that could be 3 feet. I've seen many videos, and in fact, one of the videos from across the state, from the Central State during the holiday train period, someone almost got blasted by a train because they were standing way too close. We got the other Sandy over here, as I called her last time she tuned in. Hi, other Sandy here. I think it's Barozek, or Barozek. So if I'm slaughtering that, forgive me, Sandy. But I love the other Sandy. I think that's a nice, friendly way of saying it. It's the Polar Express, is what Bill is saying in Owasso. So yes, that's what I'm talking about. The Polar Express, really cool shooting opportunity. If you guys get a chance to do that during the holiday season, it's a perfect thing to do. So just remember, planes, trains, and automobiles, stay away from the active tracks. It is not good. Like shooting down tracks like this is just not. It's not wise. Yes, it creates a great photograph. The thing is that sometimes you may not hear the train coming, even though you think you will. It's hard to judge a train by its distance and how fast it's approaching you because of the optical illusion that occurs because of the vanishing point in the distance. So just be aware of what you're doing around train tracks because it is very dangerous. So let's just look at some long exposure. We got some cool long exposure shots of trains where you get this kind of like motion blur going around the corners and stuff. This is something that's really cool to do. Is when you're creating photographs, you can express motion, and that's something that we'll talk about. But I just kind of wanted to use this as an example point of what you can look for. Find your planes, trains, or automobiles, or your vehicle transportation that you want to photograph. Type in photography after what you want to photograph and see what the examples are that you get, and start to use that as a jumping point for what you're going to create and capture in the end. So I'm going to get back to the tips and tricks, just kind of clearing through some of this stuff here, and I'll just read from that so we can kind of go over what I sent to WZZM here. Sandy says close enough on the name. I'm until I hear it, Sandy, it's one of those things. Anyways, we'll continue on. So inspiration, we covered inspiration, safety, and location. So depending on what you choose to photograph in this week's challenge, you'll want to consider your location and safety. Never put yourself in harm's way to create your photographs. In the case of photographing trains, as I had already said, you want to be clear of an active or inactive tracks. It's hard to judge how fast a train is moving, and trains typically hang over their tracks by 3 feet. So photograph them from a safe distance. Train tracks also are private property, and I have gotten in trouble on train tracks myself, so I can speak from this from personal experience. Their security pulled me and my buddy over, said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? This is private property, you can't be shooting here," and he asked for our driver's licenses right away. So bear that in mind. Train tracks are private property, and you may think that, hey, asking permission asking for forgiveness versus permission is not going to work for you, more than likely in this case. So be respectful of trespassing laws, because that's what you're doing. If you don't know where trains are running on a daily basis, I suggest looking for parks, monuments, where train cars have been fixated in one location. There's a beautiful one in Grand Haven. In fact, I think it's the sister to the Polar Express, one of the sister engines that's fitted out there. We've got one here in Muskegon where we've got the caboose down at the visitor center. So there's different things that you can do to find trains if you're looking for the details of trains and you don't want to get one that's moving. Otherwise, you kind of have to search for active tracks. I would think that you just Google that just as much as we did the images, and just kind of figure out where the active tracks are running and when, and just try to kind of put yourself in a position to photograph the train as it's coming, when she's coming around the corner. And we've got Kirk Montgomery himself. He says, "Just getting here, saying hi. I'm glad that you tuned in, Kirk. This will be nothing new for you. This is everything I've sent to you. So thanks for joining with us." If you choose to photograph planes or other vehicles of flight, I suggest shooting near an airport. Try to position yourself in an area that allows you to capture planes coming and going. So that's kind of following, just like with trains, you want to follow active tracks, follow the active flight patterns. Be aware of, what's, if it's just one runway going in one direction, you can bet which way they're going to come in and which way they're going to go out. The Grand Rapids Airport has a viewing observation park that affords you the luxury to shoot for free. I suggest grabbing a telephoto lens and spending some time at the GRR International Viewing Area. Outside of shooting an active airport, you can visit an air museum to photograph planes that have been saved for historical reasons and public viewing. Some other smaller airports, VFWs and war memorials, have erected aircraft outside of their facilities. That gives you the chance to photograph something that is still and not moving. So a good example is the Huey helicopter over here at the Vietnam War Memorial just off of Mona Lake. That gives you an opportunity to kind of shoot an Apache helicopter if you guys want to shoot, sorry, not an Apache, a Huey helicopter. And that's commemorative to the Vietnam vets over there. I've seen a lot of VFW, like some VFWs have jets erected outside of their facilities. I think there might be one down Apple Avenue. I can't recall off the top of my head if that's 100% right. But some of the other smaller airports, like if you go to Ludington, if you go to, I think Grand Haven has one, they have some older warplanes that are erected on statues in fixated positions out there. And if you get creative, you can shoot below them and kind of put the sky up around them and kind of fill the area around them. So you're really focusing on the details of those aircraft. Air museums are great if they're open. I know COVID-19 has done a lot to shutting down public areas, but if you can get to an air museum somehow, I know there's some great ones down south, maybe Battle Creek, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I think there's one in Ohio. I think there's another one in Indiana, but air museums are really, really cool. So I would check those out. If going to cars, shooting trains, planes, and automobiles, cars will be the easy one to photograph. When photographing cars moving in the streets, be mindful of how close you are to the road. You can get a little carried away. It's no different than walking on the road. I've almost been clipped walking my dog just being down by Lake Michigan. And it's because it's not necessarily, like, even though you're in a designated zone that's for pedestrians, you got to be mindful of the people who just aren't being mindful. A lot of people on their cell phones, they're distracted by passengers in their vehicles. So you want to be cognizantly aware of what other people are doing, because, you got to watch out for you. They're not going to watch out for you. So be mindful of that. If you want to shoot car details, if you've got somebody who owns a classic car, that'll give you an opportunity to shoot the details of a classic car. The other thing would be classic car shows. I know some people are still kind of holding those. If you can find any of those public events with a public car show, that'll give you the opportunity to shoot older cars and the details of older cars. And that's a lot of fun in my opinion. Some of the examples that I have are of classic cars, and it's just really fun to shoot those details. The other thing to be aware of is lighting and time of day. So this is one that I will always have for tips and tricks, is that in the morning and in the evenings, when light is still kind of like at this 45-degree angle at the horizon, that's when you're going to get some of the best light. You're always going to have warmer tones. They call it the magic hour of lights. I really like it more in the evening than I do in the morning, but it happens both times of the day. When you get out to the time of day like it is now, like afternoon to about 6 p.m., the light is just so high above, it's just so harsh that you don't really get much out of what you're trying to shoot, just because it's just not ideal lighting. That doesn't mean that it's not that you can't photograph in those situations. It just means that it might not be the most ideal time to do so. But experiment with both, morning, afternoon, evenings, just night for this matter, just to get the best time of day for what that fits your subject matter. The other thing is going to be the lighting. Is it going to be an overcast day? Is it going to be a sunny sky? Just be mindful of that too, because if it's an overcast day, you're not going to get much shadow. So if you're trying to go for the texture of an item, you won't have a lot of texture because there won't be defined shadows on a subject when you're on a cloudy, overcast day versus a bright, sunny day. Moving on to number 4 is angles and perspective. Perspective is key in creating creative and interesting photographs. Shooting from eye level can create great images, but try something new that the viewer hasn't seen. So again, I say this from week to week. I'm all 5'8". I see things from this 5'8" perspective all the time. Everybody typically shoots from the height they stand. Try getting down on your knees. Try laying down on the ground. Try laying down on the ground and shooting way up. Try shooting from an upward to downward position. Doing these things will make your photographs more interesting because you're presenting your viewer with a new way of seeing something that they may not have seen it, and a new way of seeing it that they may not have seen it in that way before. The other thing is going to be the angles, just like how you angled that. So it's not just perspective, it's what angle you approach that perspective. So be mindful of that. Lines, shape, and detail. Keep your eyes peeled for horizontal, vertical, diagonal, and curved lines. That's going to be important when you're shooting your objects because, again, lines and shape can help, focus your efforts on capturing the details of planes, trains, and automobiles. Maybe it's the hood of an ornament of a car, the rivets on the airplane, the drive wheels of a train. These objects are typically traveling faster than what you we see, which makes them special when you capture them moving. So show us what's special about them close up. So that's the thing, is that they're typically moving faster than what we can capture them. So if you can get up close and kind of focus on the horizontal lines, or if there's diagonal lines, like the railroad track has that diagonal line, play into those diagonals, play into those lines. Sometimes they come around a curve. If there's a car coming around a curve or a train coming around the curve, use the shapes and the details and the lines of these objects to your advantage. You can get close and abstract the detail, and that can do a lot to change your photograph. So don't feel like you have to fill the entire frame with the object that you're shooting. Just show us the details. In fact, show us both. We would love to see more than just your shots. You guys aren't limited to one photo. I would love to see as many photos as you have to share. This is what's great about doing these Facebook photo challenges, is that we're reviewing all the images that you create. I mean, you can limit it. We can't go over 6 images, but if you have 3 or 4, that's a great amount to share, especially if you've got detailed images versus kind of whole images of the whole object. We're getting to timing. The decisive moment is a concept made popular by the street photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson. The decisive moment refers to capturing an event that is spontaneous and kind of happening at one moment, where the image represents the essence of the event itself. One of my favorite shots from Henri Cartier-Bresson is a man jumping over a puddle, and his heel is about to hit that puddle surface of the water. And I'll quickly search that so I can show you guys what that photo means, like what the decisive moment actually means, since we're still sharing on this screen. And looking at the images, is it immediately in here? Here's one of them. This is the decisive moment with this bike. So he's standing on the stairwell, probably in Italy or somewhere in Europe, and this bike, people are probably walking, cars are probably driving around this corner. Imagine waiting there and knowing that there's this negative space right here where there isn't fencing from a stairwell, right? The handles from the stairwell. You want that negative space right there to be filled with something. And he's waiting for a person to walk by there, or that bike to ride by there. How many bikes do you think he photographed before he decided to capture that photograph? So that's something that is really big about the decisive moment. The other thing is going to be, like, this person is jumping here and they're just about to touch the ground. You're capturing them all up in the air at one time, and that's a really nice thing about the decisive moment. Is like, it's kind of like action reaction. You're capturing things just before they're about to happen. You're creating this dynamic tension between the action meets the opposite action. So it's like a matter of physics. So getting back to the decisive moments and timing. The other thing beyond that is shutter speed. Shutter speed expresses the passions of time and motion. When photographing things in motion, you'll make a decision to freeze the action using a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed to allow for the motion blur, or to express the action. This may require a tripod if you're doing the motion blur or longer exposure. You will definitely need a tripod because with slower shutter speeds, you can't hold the camera long enough to get that frozen to get the sharpness out of the photo. You can also try a technique called panning. Panning is something that I've tried to do that's kind of hard. I'll show you an example of this after I go over suggested equipment. But when panning, you're creating a technique where you're holding the camera and you're trying to keep, like if there's a car moving this way, you're trying to follow the car as fast as it's going with the camera so that when you shoot, the car will be frozen in place and the background would be blurred versus holding the camera still and having the car being a blur and the background being frozen. So there's two different ways to express motion when you're shooting something that's moving, and that's kind of the panning or just shooting it as it's from the tripod. The suggested equipment that I would recommend for this, you could use a variety of lenses. Wide-angle lenses would get you a wider field of view so that you can see a lot of what's going on. If you're shooting a landscape-style photograph with a train, plane, or automobile, I would use the wide-angle lens. If you want to shoot detail of a subject, I would recommend a macro lens because that can get you in close to rivets or like the train wheels and the parts of the engine that are really cool about these objects, or a hood ornament on a vehicle. The other thing is going to be a telephoto lens, where a telephoto lens is going to help you with photographing the planes at a distance or objects at a distance. So all those lenses all around will help you with creating your work. Don't forget about a tripod. Shooting on a tripod again will help create stability so that you can get a nice frozen capture. It'll also help kind of control any distortion that you have, so you can kind of mitigate that. I say this from week to week, a CPL filter is also going to be helpful because if you're shooting landscapes or if there's any kind of reflection coming off of your object, you can spin that circular polarizer to cut down on some of that reflection. Brad is saying angles plus low view angles are great looking when you take a photo of cars, and that's right. Getting down lower on the cement helps you to shoot up and create kind of these makes the cars look dominant, and you can create some really great photos with that. So you're right on point with that, Brad. So I wanted to show you some quick images of panning photography before I move into some of the examples that I have. So panning kind of shows you can see these motion blurs that you're getting. Like the subjects are pretty much frozen. This is a good example right here. Like that motorcycle is going super fast, but because the photographer is following that motorcycle about the same speed, I mean, he's not whipping his camera around at 60 miles per hour, but he's moving his camera and lens in a parallel position relative to that of the moving object. And when you do that, you can get this kind of warp speed blurred background, and it really creates a dynamic image. So if you're shooting these objects, especially cars, this is a perfect opportunity to really push this planes, trains, and automobiles to be creative with it. If you can accomplish this, this is a pretty good thing, a trait to do, because again, it's something that I have never really been good at. This is one with a train. You can see that the train is still moving, or the city bus, and the cars are moving around it, and they're still kind of panning with it just a little bit, creating a really cool long exposure shot that's just really unique. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I hope those tips are helpful. I'll show you some of my images here real quick. There's just a few. It's not open, so give me just a second. There we go with that. These are some that I shared with Kirk, and I'm going to try to pull some out from my personal collection if I can find them here. Sandy is saying very helpful. I hope it is, Sandy. Otherwise, I'm not doing a very good job if it's not helpful, am I? So this is going to be some of my examples of what I have captured with my photography. So I don't know if I said this right when I did the broadcast, but this is an F-16 Fighting Falcon. I may have called it an F-15, which an F-15 Eagle is what the name of the plane is, but it does not look anything like the F-16 Falcon. But this is an F-16 Falcon from the Air Force Thunderbird demonstration team, very similar to the Navy Blue Angels, which fly FA-18s or some variant of the F-18. And this is just, I'm trying to freeze the action. I'm not doing any of these. I am panning, but what I'm trying to do is capture the plane at just the right moment with a fast enough shutter speed that I'm just kind of freezing this action in time. I'm not trying to get this panning technique down. I'm really just trying to freeze a moment with this shot. So as you can see, I've got this beautiful shot of one of the F-16s. You can see that if I zoom in, that I've got the detail there. It's a little gritty. I forgot if I changed the size of this file from the original, but you can see that I've got great detail in my shot. I got this nice little afterburner smoke going on. But what I wanted was to create this idea of movement. So there's another way of presenting people with a way of capturing motion or time, and that's if you have this kind of lead in from point A to point B. One thing I'm trying to do is that you can see I've got the smoke down in the bottom right hand corner. I'm trying to create that lead in point, right? And if you can lead in someone from the corner of a frame, lead them in one corner and out another corner, that helps you to express motion over time. So I've got that lead in, I've got that smoke trail, we've got this kind of building of a smoke trail coming from the afterburner, so that we can tell that as time goes on, the afterburner trail gets bigger and bigger, right? The plane exhaust gets bigger, and then I've got the plane frozen, a good 4/5 of the way through the frame, and I'm leading someone from the right side of the frame to the left side of the frame, or if they start right in the jet, they can kind of follow it to the right, and they're coming out of the corner, and we're going into the opposite corner. So that's what I was trying to do when I framed this shot, is just trying to kind of create that entry and exit area in the photo with shooting the jet. This is a good example. The Coast Guard did a demonstration with their water rescue team. And what I tried to do with this was, again, I'm trying to freeze a moment in time, and you can see that I didn't quite have a fast enough shutter speed because I got a little bit of motion blur on the diver. And he's a blur because he's moving faster than my shutter speed. And there's a reason for this. As you guys can see, the rotors here, I've got the tail rotor and I've got the top rotor. You can see that the rotors have a little bit of blur in them. The reason I could have shot this at a faster shutter speed, but I would have frozen the rotors at just a space and time where it just looked like it was just frozen, hovering over the water. What I wanted to do was freeze the helicopter in that one position, but create enough shutter speed that you could see that the rotors were actually moving. And you can kind of see that through the mist. You can kind of see that it's kind of cutting through the little water vapor right here. Got this nice blur right here, some blur here, and what that's illustrating is that the helicopter is actually moving. So those are some techniques that I would be mindful of. Be mindful of your shutter speed, because depending on how long or short you set it, you can either just freeze that moment in time, or you can express that moment in time. And that's kind of the key difference between this photo and this photo. This is going to be the exception to this one here, where I'm kind of freezing this shot in time. Yes, I'm freezing this shot in time, but I'm also kind of showing a little bit of that expression with motion, because right now we've got this F-18 Hornet, and you can see the wash and the vapor coming off of the wings, and that's kind of creating, like, we've got this kind of blurred kind of motion occurring here. And that's what's kind of nice with that, is that it's not just freezing it. We've got it in a moment in time where we've got this wash coming off of the wings, and it can create a really dynamic photo because we've got something more happening than just a frozen object in the sky. The same can be said for this. Again, a lead in and a lead out. So I'm leading you in with the vapor trail. I've got the plane kind of frozen there. I'm putting in a great big area of space because I want the plane to be able to exist just kind of in this environment. So I'm shooting more of a landscape than just kind of shooting just the plane really zoomed in like this. Like, yeah, that's cool, and I could frame this kind of anywhere I want in the shot if I cropped it closer, if I wanted the picture to be more about the plane than anything else. But I really love it existing in its environment. So be mindful of the environment you're capturing your subject in, because your environment can play into that. So like a car in a city, with that express motion, like that panning, or maybe freezing it and getting the car kind of like the light trail from the car, that gives you that kind of tells you the story of the car moving through the city, right? So this is the jet moving through the sky. And that's what I would kind of play with when you're creating your imagery. This is a Monte Carlo that was down at the Grand Haven Pier. As you, I could have shot the whole car, but again, I just really like the lines and the shape, so I'm really kind of playing on some of these horizontal lines that are happening here. I like building photographs in layers, so the bumper is kind of creating this nice little chrome blue. I got this little hint of yellow, back to the chromes with some yellow gold accents, and then the gold body of the car, right here. So that's something that again, I'm trying to work with the lines and the shape of the vehicle and really just focusing on the details. And as much as I'm doing that in the front, it's good and prudent to move all the way around your object if you can, to photograph it from all sides, because this gives you the opportunity to get the details in the front. And as you can see, I've got the front of the Monte Carlo, the nice grille, the nice horizontal, the diagonal lines, and just really focusing on the detail of the hood ornaments and the grille ornaments right here. So those are some of the things that I'm focused on there. And Brad's saying these styles are fun to try, awarding you to get the motion, and that's the biggest thing is I would try to encourage you guys to try to capture the motion if you can, and if we do this photo challenge, I would try abstracting the object that you want to shoot. So show us something like really close up, show us that object in motion. It doesn't have to be the same object. It could just be like that same place. Like if you're trying to shoot a car moving through a city, show us the car frozen in time. If it's really prudent to freeze it, show us something in motion, and then show us the detail of something. That would be a great way of presenting your planes, trains, or automobiles to us. And again, send them to us at your heart's desire, because if there's too many, I'll just kind of pick your best ones and kind of throw them into the mix and present them next week, Monday, during our review. So real quick, I'm going to find, what do we got? I'm looking for some other photos here, guys, as to... now Kirk had some here. I'm going to add Kirk's real quick to the mix, because he had some good examples as well. So Kirk had this cab being shot in the street. So I showed you the panning examples. This would be the opposite of a panning example. This would be expressing the car in motion but freezing it in the city. So you see we've got the city block in the background. We've got all this great detail. We've got building in layers. We've got the foreground. We've got the midground. We've got the background. And everything is kind of frozen except for the car. And we're seeing that the taxi is moving. So instead of panning with the taxi and kind of freezing the taxi and kind of making that the focus, we're actually having these hints and details in the background that let us know that this taxi is moving through the city. And that's another way to present something outside of panning. He's got this great shot. This would be kind of a decisive moment. I didn't see the conductor the first time that Kirk shared this with me, but the conductor is getting up into the train, and you can see that he's frozen just with himself just being outside of getting back onto the engine. And it's kind of that great kind of frozen moment in time where, hey, if he's got some great upper arm strength, he's just holding on for dear life and just hanging on there, but he's really kind of getting up into the train. He's using diagonal lines, so we've got this nice lead-in line going down the side of the train here. And this, I'm willing to guess, Kirk, if you're still tuning in, was taken while you were in your trip to Alaska or Seattle or something. This is somewhere in the Northwest, just because of the environment in the background is what I'm willing to guess. This is one that I really loved because, again, we talked about shooting the details of planes. So if you don't have an opportunity to shoot a moving plane like I did at the Traverse City Cherry County Air Festival, like the images I showed you earlier, Kirk shot this at an air museum, and this is an old Pacific liner that we've got, and of course it just reminds me, it's like probably like a DC-10 or something like that. Just kind of the classic days of flight, good the roaring 50s and 60s in America. And what you got is just this great shot. He's got this great environment of the sky behind it. He's got it in black and white, so he's giving it this timeless feel. And it just feels like a plane parked on the runway waiting to take passengers. And so that's something to look at. And then this is my favorite shot. He shot this in Florida. this Art Deco stuff going on. I just love the color palette. He's got these great diagonal lines of the architecture, but just this yellow played in with the magentas and the seafoam greens. I just love this car shot. You know, Brad was talking about like, hey, getting lower to the ground. You can tell Kirk is probably like kneeled down, shooting up, because we're getting a little bit of that distortion, the keystoning effect from the actual architecture, and just all around beautiful shots from that. So I could show you guys more shots that I have from my Traverse City Cherry shooting that I did, to give you guys more of an idea of flight. I would only probably spend another 5 minutes on that if you guys want to see it, but I'll take your vote now. If you guys want to see some more, I can show you some more examples. If you guys have any questions, I'd throw them in now. Otherwise, I will kind of wrap up this review of planes, trains, and automobiles for the upcoming Facebook Photo Challenge. The place that you guys can send those, I've actually got a new email address for that, and it's Photo Challenge at camerashopmuskegon.com is where you can send these images. So Photo Challenge at camerashopmuskegon.com. Sandy's saying I might have enough courage to submit this time. Sandy, don't be afraid to submit. This is all for fun. This is all to challenge you to be creative. This is just something to the more you shoot, the more comfortable you will become shooting just different things. And these challenges are supposed to put you outside of your comfort zone, to encourage your photographic growth. I mean, that's the biggest thing that we're trying to do here at the Camera Shop of Muskegon. And when we present with when we do these challenges with WZZM, is to really help you guys grow as individuals. The biggest thing is that we love to do photography. Photography is our hobby, it's our passion, and what I do in my day job is I'm trying to not only provide you the equipment to do that, arming you with the equipment, but arming you with the information to help you go be successful, and to just throw gasoline on the fire of passion, and just like help fuel you and push you forward. That's what I'm here to do, and I hope that that's what these photo challenges turn into, is positive growth. And so I highly encourage you to submit and to go out and shoot, because at the end of the day, it's fun when you see everyone's images with your own. It's just nice to see what your peers are creating. So and the beautiful thing about photography is, photography is art, right? Art is subjective. Some people like Rembrandt paintings, some people hate Rembrandt paintings, some people like Art Deco, some people hate Art Deco. The thing is that, yes, photography is very personal to yourself, but that's the thing as well, is that since it's personal to you, what are you? You are an individual. Individuals are very unique, right? We're not all the same. If we were all the same, life would be very, very boring. And the nice thing is that when you get to see, when you are sharing with your peers, not only are you seeing what they're creating, you're also able to kind of stack yourself against them, and it's no competition. When you see other people's work against your own, it actually helps your personal growth. So again, I highly encourage you to share, because it's just, again, this is just a growing and learning experience, and we're just doing this for the fun of it. I put out my images for you guys to see, and there might be some things that you guys like, there might be some things that you don't like, but I'm still willing to put myself out there, and that's the biggest thing. And that's the scary thing too, is that putting yourself out there, I mean, nobody wants to fail, right? Nobody wants to be criticized. But the biggest thing is that, I will always point out your strengths in the photograph. And as you saw with our last review, we had somebody who was willing to, like, hey, I said, I think this would be great in black and white. Would you let me work on that photo? And they were willing to do that. And so it was you're able to see what that would have looked like had they gone down the road of editing their photo into black and white. So again, this is all for personal growth, and I hope that this encourages you to participate. And again, if you've got friends who shoot, Sandy, I would encourage you to invite them to join us, because the more the merrier when we when we do this. So if there's not any other questions, guys, we're coming up in 40 minutes. I like to keep these fairly short. Don't want to go an hour with these. I want to go over the tips, the actual written tips, kind of show you some visual examples, and we'll have a Facebook post midweek just as a reminder. But remember, we're going to be reviewing, we're going to give you guys the weekend to work on these. So we're going to recap these on Monday, and that's going to be Monday the 29th is when we'll recap these images. So you have all weekend to work on them. Again, any vehicle transportation, planes, trains, or automobiles. If you want to do a boat, hey, we live in West Michigan. There are plenty of boats on the lake right now. They move just as fast as a car or plane does. So I encourage you to shoot anything that kind of fits under the planes, trains, or automobiles criteria. So that's it for me, guys. I haven't seen anything else, interactions from you guys here to kind of see some more examples or have any lingering questions. I hope this has been very helpful. I hope to see your guys' photos. Remember to send them to photochallenge@camerashopmuskegon.com. That's a new email that we opened up just for this, so that you guys can send that. So there's one place that they're all going to go to. So that's it for me. Thank you for tuning in. If Kirk, if you're still joining us, thank you for allowing us to do this with WZZM. We love being a part of what you guys are presenting to the public. So thanks again for your contribution, for your images, and we will see your guys' images very soon. Remember, we're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The number is 231-733-1286. Happy to help you anytime between those hours, and we hope to see you guys soon. In the meantime, enjoy the beautiful West Michigan weather, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Take care.